Hello and welcome back to the Ospreys Eyrie podcast, the podcast which has gone squid squared this week, and we've brought in the heavyweights. We brought in the other Squidge brother. Is he the better one? Depends who you ask on Twitter. Welcome to the pod, Will Owen. Will, how are we?
Very well, thank you. A, I'm glad that I've been described as heavyweight for the first time in my rugby career. And B, please point me in the direction of the people who will say I'm the better one on Twitter because they are my favourites as well.
It's me. It's mostly me. I'll choose self-deprecation.
You did have that one guy on Twitter who said you were like the one cornerstone of good rugby Twitter.
Big up
Good
Tyler
Welsh
from the Rugby
Twitter.
Bits podcast. Lovely guy. Lovely guy.
And joining me, as always, are the lads, Robbie and Yestin. How are we?
Yeah, I'm good. A bit tired because I've been working basically all afternoon. But yeah, there's a lot of rugby watched and bit of controversy as well. But I don't know how much I can say of that controversy. But yeah, still here and still good.
So Yestin's still on the gravy train. That's what you say.
And yeah, good. Haven't necessarily been watching rugby today, but have been watching people training and practicing rugby and playing something equivalent to rugby with a bunch of people that may be relevant to listeners of this podcast. They may be familiar with such an organisation.
So cool. Robbie's been with Pontyclean Falcons today. The Welsh women's rugby team.
Starting at tight head.
We'll get into that. But keen YouTube viewers will know that Robbie and Will are not in Squidge Towers or in Robbie's flat. Where are you, boys? We'll sort of hint at it now.
We're at an undisclosed hotel in Swansea.
Yeah, please don't dox yourself.
We're in room 104. No, I'm joking. We're not really.
It's 209. It's fine. No, in 226. We're in 1422. We're in Swansea in a hotel. Crammed in. There are no chairs in this hotel because they don't want. It's like a Christopher Nolan set. They don't want you sitting down. They want you being active at all times here. So we're perched on the corner of a bed, quite far away from the laptop and mic.
So if it makes you feel better, I only own one chair in the flat currently because we don't have a sofa, which is this beautiful sporting orange reclinable armchair, which I normally record. I record everything sat in here or sat in bed, and I have a royal family-esque TV tray that I used to use when I worked from home, but it broke. So I can technically record the pod laying back like this. Like sort of deep thinker.
I'm really enjoying the one shirt hung up behind, like a really cut back 2 cents video.
Well, it's half. I thought because I've got a new background, and it's either that or me drying all my rugby kit for the weekend. I was like, oh, this needs drying anyway, and it is of course the infamous one season, the Embro shirt. Very nice white Ospreys shirt. Yeah, beautiful shirt.
Yeah, really lovely.
Yeah, so you're in Swansea. We'll come on to that later. Let's go through the news because there's, two bits of news, really. One of them is quite sad. Let's, so at 4 p.m. today, GMT, the unthinkable happened, and Nicky Smith, first of his name, son of one Lloyd, has left the region for Leicester Tigers at the end of the season. Nicky has made 182 appearances, scoring 11 tries and achieving 46 Wales caps. Made his debut all the way back in 2013 and has risen through the ranks to become number one at the Ospreys and arguably one of the best scrummage and loose heads in European rugby. There's a role model to sort of, front rows everywhere, well loved within the region. It was a big role model of mine, being a loose head prop myself. This one hits hard for fans everywhere. So, Yestin, take us away with your sort of thoughts on Nicky.
Yeah, you mentioned it there. Really, really good scrummager. I don't know if Joe Hayes is still going to be at Leicester next season, because if he is, I think you better hope that they're not scrummaging against each other most times, because of the game in Swansea a couple of years ago where Smith just tore him apart, which was a very interesting evening. And yeah, all you can really say is the best of luck to him. All the Welsh sides are in a bit of a predicament at the minute with all the budgets and everything. And yeah, it's a big kick in the teeth losing someone as good as Nicky Smith. And I'm sure he'll rip it up in the Premiership, because he will.
Yeah. And someone as committed to the Ospreys as a brand and as a team and as a club and as a badge as Nicky Smith's been. There's guessing yourself, you dug up fairly recently a clip of him as a kid watching the Ospreys Scarlets in 2004, I believe, which was great. Kind of a great clip to have. And he loved it as a kid, and it's been his whole life, and he's been there. And to see him leave's a real shame. And again, big sign of the level of financial disparity between Wales and the other clubs. The fact that we can't afford to be keeping a guy who clearly loves this club and you'd imagine would be staying if the Ospreys could match the kind of wage demands. But the facts of the matter are they're offering much more in the Premiership. Leicester are a great club, really proud history of props with forwards in particular. And it's going to be a place that really flourish, really kick off. Value him, I think, for the player he is, and probably a place that's going to lead to lots of Wales online why he's the best prop now in the way he wasn't before, because now he's playing in the Premiership, and I do that thing of hyping up all the more. But no, a real loss, a real shame, a real kind of. I think I speak for most of us are a massive fan favorite across the region, has been for a very long time.
I think it's really impressive as well, like the way that he kind of adapted the kind of prop that he's perceived as. That at the start of his career, you looked at him for his carrying and then for his defensive work, and then latterly, probably more since Duncan Jones came as scrum coach, you look at him now as a proper scrummaging prop and one of the best in Wales, if not in European rugby at the moment. And yeah, to echo what all of you said, like I'm happy for him. Like I can't blame him. It's about time after 11 years playing at the Ospreys. It's about time he went and chased a big money contract that he deserved. And like from Leicester's perspective, one of my friends who's a Leicester fan said, like, I'm delighted with this because he's the only loosehead prop at European level who has mashed both Cole and Hayes, as you were alluding to earlier, Yestin. Like, that's a huge signing for those guys. And yeah, I really hope he kicks on and shows Wales what they've missed out on by not picking him before and past. And yeah, huge fan of him, Nicky Smith, and real shame to see him go because I would have loved to see him stay at the region, but hey.
And it used to be a kind of running joke in Leicester fan circles that their signing strategy was if you play well against us, we will sign you.
Yeah.
And it kind of has that vibe.
And good on him.
Yeah, I remember being on the Leicester, the Rolling Moor pod, their fan pod, right before that Ospreys Leicester game in Walford Road last year. And one of them asking me, where's this Nicky Smith resurgence come from over the last few years? Because he's gone from being a decent player to being, I said, maybe the best scrummaging loosehead in Europe at the time. But yeah, phenomenal player who's really grown, especially in the last few years under Duncan and Toby Booth. And yeah, we really missed.
We knew it was coming as well. We sort of, the rumours died down for ages, actually, because we learned very early on that he signed this 2-year deal, but with a clause in his contract to leave, basically, if an offer came in that was suitable. And the rumours went down for ages. Other people were putting stuff in, and then you got to it, and then you're like, you sent me the message earlier in the week, Robbie sent me the Estin, that Leicester are picking him up. It's done. We knew Sarri's off the table after obviously they signed Eyrie. So you thought, could we keep him? Could we? But alas, it was too good to be true, and we knew that another big name was going to be leaving the Ospreys through Booth's comments. So yeah, we wish Nicky all the best. He's a fan favourite, and he always will be. And part of me hopes that he does one more season at the end of his career, gets up to 200 games somehow, because it'd be really nice for him to join that 200 club. because I think he'll be like the third loose end to do it or something like that. With Duncan and Paul James as well, so which is a good step. Yeah. On to better news. On the injury front, actually, Toby Booth confirmed this week that Max Nagy and Hugh Sutton are available for selection. Max Nagy injuring a very particularly nasty ankle injury against Benetton away earlier in the season. And Sutton's, well, I want to say it was even earlier.
Yes, Zebra, wasn't it?
Zebra, I'm pretty sure.
Season. Yeah.
So great to have them back. Obviously, two boys who come through the uni system.
Having both spoken to both of them today and seen both in training, they both look solid. They're both, running around. Yeah, I don't want to say too much about how they're training, but yeah, both of them were up and going.
Deceptively large individuals. I mean, obviously, Hugh Sutton's a second row, so he's going to be tall, but Nagy's a big boy as well.
He really is. He is height-wise. He's perhaps not built in the way of a second row, but height-wise, he's not a million miles off the bigger forwards.
And then further down the line, it has been suggested by Booth that Jack Morgan and Dewi Lake, the Built Different brothers, are available for the European knockout game against Sale. And all of a sudden, that game just become a lot more spicy. A lot more spicy.
That's, I think, the thought of those two coming off the bench, right, deep into the game, if things are getting tight, things are perhaps getting a bit spicy, maybe Sale will start to take some momentum. Those two coming on in an atmosphere as enclosed as the Brewery Field could be a huge swing in momentum. That could be huge for lifting a crowd.
Say what you like about Lake and Morgan. You can say something about Lake's lineup throwing. You can say Jack Morgan is often hailed by Ospreys and Wales fans as one of the best flankers in the world, but some people might not think that's the case, right? Say what you want about either of them. Both of them can do it on a cold, rainy night in Bridgend. Both of them have confirmed that in past.
Yes, Tim. Talk to me about what impact can them boys bring to that European knockout game.
Well, it adds a very interesting element if Boothie wanted to pick a 6-2 split on the bench, because Lake played late against Cardiff. So, I'm just throwing that out there. Not really a serious suggestion, but it would be really nice if you had them the week before against the Lions, just to get them, a little bit of game time, even if it was just, 20 seconds, one carry and one tackle. That'll do. And
over the game line.
and then you go into Sale then with a bit of fitness behind you. So if those two are back, it kind of makes it really, really exciting. And if anyone hasn't got a ticket to Bridgend, then you're going to be missing out on watching two very good rugby players.
I am increasingly
just the two. Yeah.
I'm increasingly tempted to come back for that game.
Yes.
Keep looking at it. And I think I might have to. Look into it. Anyway, so that's good news on the injury front. On the signing front, like magic, as we mentioned last week, that we were sort of, as a group, were saying how we needed to sign some people rather than just re-sign. And I'm taking credit for this one. Not in the fact that I knew who he was, but I just pestered the Ospreys enough that they actually announced it. We have announced the signing of 21-year-old Welsh qualified lock. But he's a GIF player, right? So he's properly France qualified, second row, William Greatbanks, which is not, I promise, not an AI-generated name. He is not Tame Plumtree. Right? He is not an NFT. So he plays for is it Soro?
Yeah.
Yeah. Will, you and Robbie are probably the better suited to talk about Pro D-Day.
Well, the thing is, I think signing a Pro D-Day lock is always going to go one of two ways. But a revelation that you pointed out to me, Robbie, the other day is A big part of why this might be real and this might be happening is because the Pro D2 have announced that on pretty much all of their games next season, they're introducing TMOs. So presumably he suddenly has no more interest in playing there and thinks, well, if I've got to be a real rugby player that gets paid for this full time, I might as well do it in a league that's going to offer me more opportunities, and I might get a Welsh cap out of it, whatever. Whereas his other option was go down to Federale 1 and beat 7 bells of poo out of whoever's down there.
There's just going to be a massive influx of big second rows who do nothing but punching, moving down a division next season.
Straight to Federale 1.
Got TMO stepping in. But yeah, no, I mean, there's a highlights package out there. There's one try in particular that he scored, the one try of his career.
I'm disappointed that he scored a try, I was much he just knocked people out.
Hitting a nice line. There was a kerfuffle afterwards. He's a player getting binned.
Oh, that's
like, it's
Can we sign that player as well?
Yeah.
It does make me very happy because he seems very athletic, right? He hits that lovely line, and you look at him, he's just all shoulders. Like he looks very much in that English second row mold. I know he's Welsh and French, but he's sort of English born. But he looks like a proper old school English second row. Like it just seems to be a very Toby Booth signing.
Yeah. It's someone they've clearly really gone out and targeted and gone looking for people. Booth mentioned there's Welsh coaches out there in France who've been scouting him, and they've kind of heard word down the grapevine that he's someone to look out for. And yeah, excited to see how he goes. Excited to see how he can slot in and what he can do.
Yeah. Exciting time. And hopefully, it was alluded to that we maybe see a few more signings. There are some further down the pipeline of being selected. I'm still holding out for the half Welsh, half Japanese second row, Richard Go-Jones, as we alluded to the other day. Or I want a Patagonian 13.
Oh, hello.
Who's called like Llewellyn Fuentes or something like that.
I mean, I thought Carwyn Tuipulotu was a stretch at the Scarlets. I would love Llewellyn Fuentes. What a signing he'd be. I hope this is like a Thibaut Flamont Wasps kind of situation where it turns out that just nobody in France quite realised how unreal he was. And then he comes to England, it's like, oh no, you're like the best thing we've ever seen, except Wales cap him in time this time.
Oh, Thibaut Flamont. Do you know he played fly half for was it left for a 15 or something like that?
No,
never heard.
Oh, shame. So that is pretty much it. The other news is George North is injured, which I'm not going to talk about because we put out a lovely pod for George North last week, and that's the memory I'm going to have of George North, of a lovely try against Worcester where he cuts back on the grain and scored a lovely try in the corner against like Perry Humphreys or Francois Houlard.
The player.
And his Lambo. I'm always drawn to, whenever I think of Francois Houlard, is that clip of him playing for South Africa against Wales where he taps the ball first and then kicks it out off a penalty. And when you've got Jiffy calling you an idiot, you know you've done something wrong.
And like everyone is agreeing with Jiffy as well. It's not like Jiffy's just calling him an idiot because they ran something that they wouldn't run in the 80s, or they didn't drop the ball or whatever.
Or numbers.
Yeah. But like Jiffy was right, which is not something I'll say very often.
My first memory of Francois Houlard isn't anything he ever done on a rugby pitch, good or bad. It's during the height of lockdown, the first player spotted Blood and Mud got in post-lockdown was someone saw him in the Waitrose in Worcester. And it was like an oasis appearing in the desert. The fact that they'd spotted a rugby player in public after all this time, and the relief I felt hearing that Francois Houlard was out there buying beans in Worcester, a glorious day.
Good player there.
He was class. Francois Houlard, got a lot of time for him.
Right, let's move on and talk about. Well, actually, no. It's sort of going to hand it off to you boys and see what you can say. Really, we sort of alluded to what you were doing this week. So take over. Go. Tell us what you've been up to.
So this morning, long story short, we found ourselves in Clondarcy, just tripped over and landed in the Ospreys training base. In Clondarcy, and have Bo filmed some stuff for a video that should be up next week, hopefully, maybe the week after. We'll see how it goes. Which was great. We managed to get 9 players in to chat to us, which was cool, which was good. But we also watched the second half of the training session this morning. So do know the team to play Munster as well. Like they were wearing numbers on their back as they played, as they trained. But it's been quite a surreal day, I think you can say.
It's been really cool. It's it was just like when we were in the car on the way there and just looked out to the left and was like, oh cool, there's people running. Oh wait, those people running around on AstroTurf. It's not like a game of five-a-side. That is the Ospreys training. And yeah, like getting the opportunity to like go down and like when we got told like, oh yeah, you can watch training, I kind of thought, because basically the way it is, there's a platform, then some downward stairs, and then you're into like the cage where the five-a-side pitch is, right? I kind of thought we'd be watching it on top of the hill.
Yeah.
And then we got guided like inside the doors, the gates of the 4D pitch. And then I was like, all right, we're literally right next to the pitch.
We were stood on the pitch just over the touchline as they trained, which was a really cool, really fun experience. As they were playing, Alex Cuthbert had been kind of subbed off as they were doing these rolling subs during the kind of training game they were playing. And so he was just stood there to the side. Like you were saying, there's a point where it kind of ball bounced along.
He was in the backfield and like just after we arrived, someone kicked the ball through. And like it landed right next to me. And I was like, I so easily could just pick this up and just feed Cutty as and ask him to run it back. But
you know who
he got there first.
Who threaded that kick through?
Who was it?
Hugh Sutton.
Was it?
Hugh Sutton put a kick through in training.
So basically what we're saying is we watched training and we cannot confirm nor deny, because we know the team, we cannot confirm nor deny that Hugh Sutton is playing fly half for the Ospreys on Friday. There's an exclusive for you.
But yeah, it's
Thibaut Flamand.
Yes. Mind games, mate.
It's playing for Loughborough firsts, though. But yeah, I think it was a really cool, lovely day. But it's I think the thing that really stood out, right, was when Lance Bradley first came in and when he was on this podcast, and he talked about how he came in and he watched a training session on his first day in, and all the players came over afterwards and shook his hand and introduced themselves and said hello. And the thing is, that made sense when it was the CEO coming in. You know, you kind of expect that when they go, here's your new boss. This guy is coming in to run the club. Yeah, you would go and introduce yourself. That makes sense. They all came over and said hi to us, and we're just 2 nerds standing on the sideline. And yet the majority of the players came by, shook our hands, said hello, introduced themselves. It was really lovely. It was really nice. And it kind of gave me the biggest sense of what they've built here, you know, of the team it's become under Toby Booth, of how welcoming and friendly it's been. And I found it genuinely quite moving to...
It's a very fair point, because like they were very like sunny in the way that they introduced the majority of them. And just like, these are male professional rugby players we're talking about. They're not always all known for being lovely, warm people. But yeah, it was very nice. It was very nice. It was just, you know, it only took 2 seconds of their time, but it was very cool. Like a couple of them just sort of saying like, all right, boys, how you doing? And obviously it wasn't big, but it was nice. It was pleasant.
Yeah.
Very, very nice group of lads, the ones that we spoke to.
I kept running into Sam Parry over the course of the time there and having like, because the first time it was like, oh, how you doing? Yeah, shook hands. You're like, hi, I'm Sam. I'm like, yeah, good. Yeah, I'm aware. I'm a big fan of your work, Mr. Sam. Not Uncle Sam, different guy.
I was a big fan of that try he scored against South Africa last year.
Such a big fan.
Battered. Yeah.
Such a big fan of all 30 odd of his tries for the Ospreys. Every single one I have enjoyed.
Including the hat tricks as well.
Oh, mate, now we're talking. And every time when Shane goes, oh, I hate this, Hooker scoring a try. What's this all about?
Shut up.
Love it every time. So, yeah, I mean, I kept running into Sam Parry and having this talk like, hi, how are you doing? Every time. That was fun. That was good. Yeah, so we kind of watched through the training session. That came off. Duncan Jones is incredibly funny, man. Duncan
He's
Jones is
great value.
yeah,
Nice as well.
really, really funny guy.
Really sharp, really
Really
quick-witted.
sharp. Yeah, invited us in for a scrummaging session.
Yeah, he asked if I wanted to play hooker on Friday. Genuinely, I don't know why he pointed me out. I think it's just because I joked back to him, like.
And you said, "I'll work on my hooker throw."
I said, yeah. I said, give me 5 minutes to learn how to cut hooker throw, and I'll be fine. And he was like, I do not need you to throw, mate.
Yeah, only scrums.
Only scrums.
Only interested in scrums. Yeah, and then as they went on, as the players slowly filtered out, we got to the kind of coup de grace, the highlight, which was Toby Booth himself.
Before that, we got to witness Toby Booth putting his arm around Dan Edwards. And it was just a really cute moment. It's just like, Booth, he clearly really cares about Dan Edwards, is the thing.
But there was a lot of that. He was doing it for a lot of the players individually.
Yeah.
So like Max Nagy was, obviously in his first week back in full training, and Toby went over and was asking about, how he was feeling with his leg and running and everything and being at kind of, playing at full pace. And was going around a bunch of the young players. And then, Dan Edwards kind of went around and...
He was clearly really interested by, like, the details of the individuals, the characters in the squad and bits and pieces like that. So...
and then came over and said hello. And as everyone else was leaving, he stood and talked to us for about maybe 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And is so insightful. He had
time.
Everything you could possibly want him to be. It was... everything I could have dreamt that interaction would have been.
The thing is, he's literally the same as he appears on telly. Like, he is, to be honest, he's like one of the best, like, conversationalists I've ever spoken to, I think. Like, but the thing is, as I say, like, he's no different to on telly. He's just as charming. Like, it's not like he needed to switch it on for us, It's not like there was a moment where he kind of thought, like, oh, I need to, like, actually do this. He was completely natural to him. I pointed this out to you earlier, but, like, when we were talking to him, but in the first sort of minute of our conversation, he made a point of, like, asking us both questions of, like, opinion vows and stuff, just as clearly a way of, like, making us feel kind of, like, valued and welcomed and stuff. And he was just, like, really, really just welcoming and just really, like, offered us all of his wisdom in the world, and it was brilliant. It
was funny and engaging and not afraid to kind of be honest and give us his thoughts on things. There was some things where I figure a lot of people would go, it's a member of the press, I'm going to be closed off, or it's, a fan, I'm not going to say this, that, the other, not a fan.
Careful.
Not a fan, because the big bit of wisdom that he gave us was he asked me how I thought the season was going, and I began saying, well, as a fan, then he stopped me, corrected me, and said, a supporter, not a fan. Fans blow away in the wind. Supporters stand strong. Which was a vintage Boofyism. He then stopped, looked at me, said, you can quote me on that, and then said it again.
Yeah, supporters stay strong, fans blow away in the wind. Beautiful Boofyism. And, like, we were with an employee of the Ospreys who gets to see Boofy, like, on the daily, who was saying to us, like, I've never heard him say that before. I loved it. Like...
Knowing who you're on about as well, I can imagine how excited they got.
Yeah.
Which will be in a WhatsApp message later.
Absolutely will. Absolutely will. But yeah, so from now on, we are all supporters, not fans of the Ospreys. That has to stand still. We are
so good.
We are supporters.
I spent all day thinking about him saying that. It's not left my mind.
That's going to be Will's next team talk. They're not fans on the sidelines, lads. They're supporters. They're not going to blow away in the wind. This is how long they're going to get promoted to the championship.
But yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, we're top of the league at the moment. We just need to win on Saturday and then we'll get promoed. Yeah. Anyway.
And you know how you win on Saturday?
Why? How? By finding a way?
By being a supporter. That's what you need. Otherwise, the wind will come along and it'll blow you away. And
I'm not there on Saturday. I'm busy supporting Wales. So.
Well, never mind.
Yeah.
It's just where you're not being a fan of Wales. So talked to Toby Booth was fantastic value. Talked a lot about, without wanting to go into specifics, but talked a lot about young players and his philosophy on bringing through young players, and was really forthcoming about that. Then it was the other thing was, when we left and we walked away, I realized it was raining.
Yeah.
And it had been really pelting it down for quite a bit at that point. I just hadn't paid attention because I was just greatly enjoying the warmth and company of the very Mr. Booth. So yeah,
He also offered me to come to training tomorrow and said that I should have brought my boots. Which
yeah, he did ask why we're not
that's-
in kit.
Yeah, like I had two professional coaches ask me if I wanted to train with a professional team, which has never happened before and will never happen again. And so the reason why I'm using this platform today is it's my claim to fame, and I'm gonna cash in on this. I'm gonna dine out on this for years.
I'm going to see an Andrew Ford compilation of Will Owen highlights within like a week because he's going to be playing for a contract.
It's going to be 48 seconds long.
Mind you, shout out Andrew Ford got himself back on the pitch last week, so he's going to be editing his own highlight reel before we know it.
My teammate Andrew Ford, I'll have you know.
Really?
I've played one game for his club and he wasn't there because he'd done his knee.
Classic.
My best friend, big Ospreys fan, plays for Cardiff Saracens, which is Andrew Ford's team. And I played for Cardiff Saracens as to pay rent to live in his flat for a weekend. So basically, when we were still living in Swansea, myself and my partner booked this comedy show in Cardiff for them two Geordie people, Shag Married Annoyed, that was one, that podcast.
Oh yeah. It wasn't like Cardiff v Dragons. That wasn't the comedy show.
No, that wasn't the comedy show. No. So we completely forgotten about it because we both moved back to England for jobs, and we were like, "Shit, we haven't got a place to stay." I don't know. Let's ring James and Emily, and I was like, "I can't offer you any money because I'm broke." But I can play for Cardiff Saracens against Dennis Powers. And he was like, yes, this is better. I said, is because he joked at the time because it was just after we started doing the pod, and Robbie he was like, well, you're famous now and know YouTube superstar Robbie Owen. And I was like, but you know YouTube superstar Andrew Ford. So I'm collecting you guys like the Infinity Stones now. I'm going to go try and play touch rugby with Rhian Lowe next.
It's coming. It's coming.
If long you can get third team game out, then you're more than welcome to enjoy it.
Yeah, okay, well, honestly, I'll collect everyone. So yeah,
we'll fly 2 cents over.
Me and Andrew Ford technically are registered to the same club, so nice. we it's the only Cardiff team I'll ever support. So yeah, sorry, we've got sidetracked there as we are prone to do.
Well, yeah, we set up and we did as you know, last time we played General Omen Rugby with Morgan Morse and Will Griff. We had more of a rolling setup where we sat in the team room and had a rotating cast of me and 3 random Osprey squad members playing the rugby mini game in the Mario and Sonic at the Tokyo Olympics game on the Nintendo Switch family of systems. And tell you what, that is seeing people have 5 minutes to learn the controls and then keep playing was an experience.
Do you want to know my favorite bit of that? Every time we had a new cast come in, you had to pretend that you were relearning the controls to not look like too much of a try hard. You had to kind of go like, oh, okay, so A's to pass. Oh, okay, interesting. Every time.
So we played a bunch of games of it last night.
Yeah.
Kind of get up to speed and get to know the thing. Because when we'd done General Omen Rugby, I genuinely had one game of it and didn't know the thing at all. And so, you know, I kind of was fairly up to speed with it. And I then realized quickly I'll not play up to that. And I will play as though I'm learning alongside. And no, I don't want to be like, I was going easy on them. I was going easy on these professional rugby players. But I don't know, it was a lot of fun. We had Morgan Morrison again. The first game,
great value.
Yeah, Morgan Morris was fantastic. It was me and James Ratty against Morgan Morris and Hugh Sutton. Hugh Sutton sat silently in the corner, and Morgan Morris pinned every mistake of his team on him.
Morgan Morris was Sutton the whole time. It was brilliant.
Morgan Morris remains a wonderful, really lovely person.
He's got friend of the pod.
Yeah. You know, instantly recognized me, came over and said, you know, what games are you playing this week? You know, good to see you. kind of caught up ever so slightly, which was good. And yeah, then we rotated back in. We moved on to a second game after that.
I really like Luke Davis.
Yeah.
I really like his sense of humor. He seemed a really just nice guy. He was really happy to be involved. I think I'm kind of spoiling for the video now, but like he got really into it.
Yeah, Luke Davis was so into it. So it was Luke Davis and Lewis Jones against me and Harry Deves. Harry Deves had a really hard time picking up the controls.
Oh mate, he had a mare.
But the quality of his tackling, regardless, remains. Like he was throwing himself into everything. The number of times you thought they'd scored, and then suddenly a player controlled by Harry Deves would appear out of nowhere and smash them. Great value.
This probably won't make the cut of the video, so
Sure.
look about it on here as an exclusive. All three groups of players could not get past the character select screen and really struggled with figuring out which button was A and which button was B. On all of them, somebody would press B and end up going back to the home screen, and then they'd all carry on talking and go, what? And then have to go through all of it again, and you would have to re-explain who's player one.
Yeah.
Press A, that's A, that's B, don't press that one. And then they'll go, oh, sorry, mate, no, whatever. And you had to do that
time.
3 times.
3 times I had to try
and it was really funny. Like, and that probably won't make the video because
no, but it was great fun.
Very funny.
And because so I was player 3 because player 3 was the kind of, we had one controller that was less good than the others, and I took that one so the players could have the good controllers. But it meant I then had to be like leaning over to Luke Davis, being like, can you just press that button there? Can you just move on a bit so we keep this rolling on? But yeah, all of them ended up backtracking to the game select main menu. Yeah, then that game was good fun.
Yeah,
it was good. I started celebrating a try. Harry seemed to be scoring, and then I think he ran dead.
Yeah,
instead of putting the ball down.
A few moments like that.
Yeah,
where these guys just clearly didn't know the rules of rugby. It was really failing.
They'll never make it.
So you were recording with the Scarlets at that point, were you?
Yes. And then we played a final game where it was me and Garen Phillips against Lewis Lloyd, and I can't remember who the other player was. I've gone blank completely, and I apologize for that.
I'm gonna put name out there. Harry Houston. No. Cam Jones.
It wasn't.
That one.
It wasn't.
Oh, Tom Florence.
Tom Florence. Okay.
Oh, Florence. Yes.
Yeah, he was nice.
He was
nice lad.
Yeah. Garen Phillips, funny guy.
Yeah. He was the most into it of that 3.
Yeah,
easily.
He was saying he's really into his games and really good at games that are called COD. So, it's close enough. Lewis Lloyd afterwards said he thought the game was awesome, which was
yeah.
He was really into it. He was the one who wanted to play another game most.
Yeah,
but
if only we had an All-Stars game with him and Luke Davis.
Yes, that would have been
Morgan
good.
Morris, that would have been good. But hey,
also, Boyd does not stop smiling. Lewis Lloyd, he is grinning at everything, and he was the same in training. He was clearly just grinning the entire time he was running around. And then seeing him just in the team room and they were playing darts in the background as we were doing this. And he seemingly good at darts. He was there for a long time. And
it makes me wonder, do they do that every day? Do they play darts after training every day? I'm guessing so. I'm guessing there must have a few good darts players in there.
Yeah. But yeah, really broad, smiley, lovely man. All of them were great value. Everyone was lovely.
I'll tell you what was great. Getting offered cake by Will Hickey.
Yeah.
It was Jack Regan. It was someone Irish.
Will Hickey.
Jack Regan.
It was Will Hickey.
Hickey.
Jack Regan's in Japan.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. We didn't go to Japan this morning, I don't think. So yeah. Will Hickey offered us cake. There was loads of it going. And we were kind of like, oh, do we get the Ospreys cake? And he was like, dude, there's like 3 of us left. We're not going to eat the whole cake.
We were packing away. It was us. It's Will Hickey and Hugh Sutton were the only people left in the room.
Yeah.
Jack Walsh had just headed off. He'd sat in the corner, sitting by the cake for a long time, looking at it but not eating it. And then, yeah, we were left. So we both had a slice of the cake.
Yeah,
And
I had
then-
two. I
Nice.
had two slices of the cake. I wanted to assert my dominance.
Right as I was walking past the door of the team room with my mouth full of cake, in walks Sam Parry.
Oh yeah.
And I have to walk and go, cake. And he was like, oh, you're right, lads. He walks over and gets an apple out and starts eating his apple. Tom Boter, right behind him, though, sees the cake out of the corner of his eye and sidles right over.
As I went
I
over for my
love
second
that.
slice of cake, like I think it was Will Hickey again was just like, oh yeah, another one is yeah. I was like, yeah, I've not got a nutritionist. Like,
Yeah.
like I can do this.
I'm having a kebab later, Will.
I might after this. There's an Ospreys branded. Oh no, there's a kebab shop with an Ospreys
Don't
logo on it.
go to it. Do not go. I know
Really?
exactly where you are. I've made this mistake on many nights out.
Has
Do
it
not go to
written you
any-
off?
Don't go to any kebab shop. There is a place on that street. Oh no, I won't be doing food anymore. You have to go tomorrow. That place I put in earlier, Robbie, has lots of street food stuff in it. It's very nice.
Okay.
If you're gonna go for food, just don't go there. You will die.
Okay, that's kind of the vibe I want. That's like if I'm going for food on Wynn Street, I kind of want to suffer.
Who was the last? The last bit I saw an Osprey. Oh no, it was Roger Lewis. The last Ospreys player I like, saw out in the wild was on Wine Street. I can't remember what it was after. I want to say it was after another 20s thing.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
I used to see lots of Ospreys players on nights out, especially the ones who are so would be 26 now. 25, 26. I used to see them all on that. I told you I nearly had a fight with Adam Beard at a nightclub. Like, completely by accident. Someone pushed into me in the queue, and I sort of turned around to assert my dominance.
I'm so grateful for nearly in that sense.
Yeah, I realised it was 6'8" Adam Beard. And I was like, you know what, mate, you're all right. And then we started chatting, then he bought me a Jaeger bomb. So yeah.
Oh, legends.
Rugby values.
Imagine having the British and Irish Lions test player buying you a Jaeger bomb on the night out.
This would have
James
been
Ryan's
like,
dream.
James Ryan has to do it in his €60 Lion shit that he bought himself. Right. So it was an amazing day for Squid Rugby Incorporated Ltd.
Oh, I'll tell you what. Two other things, right? One, didn't say hello, but Richard Fussell walked by.
Oh, he did say hello. He said, "All right, boys." Yeah.
He did.
He
did. Yeah.
He didn't shake our hands.
No,
he did say hello.
He's going to come up in a bit.
That was it. Yeah, Richard. He went like, "You right, boys?" to us,
And then we turned around.
I turned to you and I was like,
the words,
"Oh my god, it's Richard Fussell!"
Yeah.
And then was having to explain to, Bethan with us from the Ospreys. No, I was obsessed with Richard Fussell in his playing days, and I've always said, right, if I'm ever Wales coach, I'm picking Richard Fussell on the wing. Even now, I'm putting him in for a game. Maybe he plays fullback instead, but he's winning a cap because he deserves it. I might bring him on. I might start him, have him play the first 5 minutes, then bring him off because he's not played in 8 years. But yeah, man, what a player, Richard Fussell. The other one, when we first went to the team room, right? Who should be in there but Justin Tipuric himself?
Oh yeah.
And
that was weird.
I made eye contact with Justin Tipuric, and he went, "You right, mate?" And I went, "You right?" And that was it. But that was maybe the greatest moment of my life.
Did we both turn around to Justin Tipuric at the exact same moment?
Maybe.
Because he was just kind of like, "All right, boys," and then just walked out, and I was just like, "That's weird.
Yeah.
That's weird."
But
That's
considering the influence Justin Tipuric has had on my life weirdly from a distance, and drawing his scrum cap on MS Paint led to me owning a house, which is a mental situation, and the whole thing since. Really surreal moment to have made eye contact.
It
with
was
Justin
really
Tipuric
funny,
briefly.
just being like, "You're all right, mate."
Casually.
And by "you're right, mate," I mean oh yeah, hello, Justin Tipuric, influential
Maybe
British and Irish Lion,
my
and Wales
favorite player
legend,
of all time,
and one of the greatest open side flankers I've ever seen play the game in Wales. And yeah. The thing is, I was saying this earlier to you, but he must know, when two lads in their 20s walk in and say something like that, even if they're in the media, whatever it is, he must know that he's idolized by those people.
Yeah.
That's a thing. But he was very cool about it. Clearly, he just said, "All right, boys," and then walked off.
So what you're saying is bringing back a lot of memories for me, because where he was stood, I know exactly where you're stood, right? And yes, they'll probably know as well, both being from the area and having visited Llandarcy. I used to train on that pitch on a Thursday evening for Trebanos Youth. And that's where Justin Tipuric used to tell me, James, you're not jumping up in the lineup properly, or James, why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you playing Saturday? And then he was like, James, you're a 7. I'm deeply disappointed in you. This is why I stopped playing flanker, because I just used to upset Justin Tipuric. And I was like, can I play 8 instead? He's like, no. You're going to wear the number 20 and that's it.
If Antoine Dupont told me he was disappointed in me, I would stop playing 9 forever.
The worst thing was, we didn't even have numbers. We had letters, like old school Leicester.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Oh,
So we had letters on our jerseys instead of thing. So we owned we had our own jersey. I can't remember what mine was. I want to say it was like X or something like that. I reckon I got a really short straw. I still have, and I might actually, if you bear with me 2 seconds, my other Justin Tipuric story is he used to bring kit from the Ospreys all the time, like stash, like old stuff. But I think at one point he either just did like a massive like whip around with the Osprey squad to like any old kit, or he was just plainly stealing. Because I have got, and I will get them for you now.
I can't believe you've never brought this up before. I can't believe I didn't know you were coached by Justin Tipuric before. I've banged on about so many pointless stories of like, oh, I once looked at a picture of James Ratty, and that's my anecdote. When you were coached by Justin Tipuric.
Yeah, I played with his brother as well.
What?
Whoa.
Yeah.
What's his brother's name?
So, his brother's name's Joe. He's in the area.
Is he any good?
Very nice lad. He was He was one of the best props I ever played with. Right. We used to call him the Ferrari.
Really?
The tank with a Ferrari engine, because he was the quickest player on the pitch. And I think he once beat Tion Thomas Wheeler in a race.
Oh, wow.
So these are actually these are very dirty. They're Josh Matavesi's boots.
No way.
So basically, we were at training. I was doing I was talking to our coach, and then I saw Justin's sort of car. His boot was still open. So I was like, "What's happening here?" And he was like, "I've got a load of kit. There's not much left." So I got a coat, and I was like, "Who's what size boots is that?" They're 13. So I was like, "Cool, I'll just take them anyway." Like, who's wearing them? They're like, "Oh, Josh Matavesi's." And I still have them, and I still wear them in the summer.
Yes.
This is from like 2014. I'm still wearing them. So shout out Josh Matavesi, shout out Mizuno. I can't believe I haven't told. I think I told you. I must have told you in private that I was coach.
I didn't think so.
Oh,
I think I remember.
So Tips was Tips was my coach for a good few years. He was a good mate, but he was my hero growing up. So it was really surreal to me. And I wasn't originally part of Trebanos. I'm from that area, so not very far from Yeston at all. I'm from the area, and I got recruited got approached by the chairman of the club at the time at my great nan's funeral. So I was at this wake for my great nan's funeral, and one of the guys comes over and he's like, "How are you? How's your dad? How's your granddad?" And all that sort of Welsh village mentality. And he was like, "You still playing rugby?" And I was like, "Yeah." So at the time, I was playing over for Aberafon Harlequins. Just seen Reagan Grace been scouted by St Helens, and I thought, "Oh, this will be me next." So he was like, "Oh, Trebanos have got a youth team now. They're all first year, so I was a second year youth player or Colts player, whatever I said." He was like, "They need a bit of experience. Would you fancy going down?" And I was like, "Oh, do you know what?" I was like, "Yeah, go on. It's closer to home." So I was apprehensive. He was like, "Oh yeah, but Justin Tipuric's coach," and I was like, "Yep, cool." Down
Yeah. Hell of a
recruitment
policy, isn't it?
Yeah. The best thing though at the time, the first team coaches for Trebanos were Matthew Dwyer and Ashley Beck.
Wow.
Oh wow.
Because they used to, when the players were getting their badges, they used to go out to different clubs a lot. So they'd go like to Trebanos or whatever. I was at training before, and I sort of bumped into Jeff Hassler coming out of the gym. at the club, and I was like, wait, I was like, you're right. And then just sort of that sultry Canadian voice he had, he was like, hey, dude. So
Oh.
I could die you right now.
Oh, I miss it.
Yeah, so I might have to drop in, like, I might have to drop in Justin Tipperick stories every week until he
I
hunts me
can't
down
wait.
and tells me to stop.
It's a better segment than Viaplay Film of the Week.
I don't know. Okay, I'll text the boys, see if I've got any more Justin Tipperick stories. Oh, we have got one actually. I'll tell one. It's not the best one, I think. So we had our Christmas party, and our coach Johnny dressed up as Santa, and we were all 17, so we were all having a few drinks, and then he came in dressed as Santa. He was giving out the stupid presents, and he was getting a couple of the boys to come up and sort of say what they want for Christmas. We got Justin Tipperick up and made him sit in his knee, and then went, what do you want for Christmas? And he sort of went silent in that really awkward Justin Tipperick way. And then Cleo, our fullback from the back of the room, shouted, to start ahead of Sam Warburton for once. And then we saw was like a visceral Croatian rage form upon his face. And yeah, so because this was in the period where Tipperick was like shit hot.
Yeah.
But Sam Warburton was captain. So yeah, that was a funny one. But he was a really nice guy and obsessed with lineouts. I'll say that story next week. But obsessed with lineouts. So yeah, Justin Tipperick, good player.
Good player.
Well, we're going to come on to him in a minute when we play good player.
Well, but yeah, I think all round, like just to summarize, really cool day, really surreal as someone that's come from kind of far away and traveled from this distant mythical land and arrived and seen Tom Boter up close and gone, whoa, look at him, what an athlete. Because yeah, there's sheer intensity of training as well, like the speed they play at is still incredible when you see it up close.
Yeah, as somebody who trains at a much lower pace than that, personally.
The other thing is, right, so like
standing.
at the end of the session, like Ruben Morgan-Williams went off to do like some solid box kicking practice. Him and Harry Houston like regathering them for him. And a few other players like doing bits of kicking. So like Dan Evans did some goal kicking, and a few others, Jack Walsh did as well. But as they were hanging them, through sheer instinct of being on sideline of amateur rugby clubs, I'm always checking heads just to see if the ball's going to hit me. And I'm like, oh no, it's professional. It's going to land exactly where they're aiming, pretty much, give or take a few inches. Like a professional hitting it under no pressure is going to do better than some prop randomly kicking it in a warm-up in an amateur club. But you check every time through instinct.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. And having seen Tito Tebaldi play, I too check my head every time a box kickers hang up. So that was your Ospreys adventure.
Yeah.
Should we, before we preview the Munster game, should we play good player?
We should play good player.
So obviously, I think I'm talking to the OG good player duo now, because it was you, Will, and your Twitter, your WhatsApp conversation you uploaded that inspired good player, because we just started randomly talking about it on the pod.
For me, it kind of it came out of once when a couple of years ago, I was at a festival with some friends who were all Nottingham Forest fans, and I decided I'd just get on board by pretending I was also a lifelong Nottingham Forest fan and getting involved with the conversations. And when a certain player, they just mention a certain player's name, and I just go, oh yeah, good player. Of just Nottingham Forest teams in years gone by, and I know nothing about football. And then eventually I got more and more confident as the weekend went on and had more and more in-depth conversations about these players. I learned more about them. And now, like, if I'm at the pub with these people, sometimes I can have like a 5-minute conversation about Forest with them. And it made me realize it's just something that we all do, is we talk about players who retired in years gone by. It's that tweet that said, like, dudes can just sit in a room and just name sports people from like 5 years ago and have the best time. And it makes you realize that is so true. Lewis Stevenson, good player. Like...
But the other thing was, like, we went to see Half Man Half Biscuit, the band, last year, year before.
Yeah,
like
2022.
I got COVID. We get
May 2022. We both got COVID.
COVID from it, yeah. Right after lockdown. Good idea. and Nigel Blackwell, the lead singer, went on a tangent about his favourite Notts County players, and he was just going naming
And Forest, both, yeah.
He just named players like, oh, he was a good player. He was a good player.
Yeah,
over and over
He was
again.
a cracking defender, wasn't it? Yeah, he was really good at the back.
Kind of cemented it. In my head.
That was the start of the encore as well. They'd gone off, they came back on and started just talking about Forest and County and saying like, you know, we cover them both. We keep up with them both, and it's just like incredible knowledge of league football.
I just imagining like local Swansea bands doing that, but for Ospreys teams. So come back on for their encore, and they're like, or like just West Walian bands like, shit, Andy Fenby, good player.
I think it's really
Andy
important
Fenby
not to overdo it, but yeah, Andy Fenby's the perfect niche.
That's niche how you're going. Like Rory Pittman, good player.
Yeah. Was he though?
But no, he had a great burst of form.
He had a great 6 months at the Scarlets.
Well, he played one game for the Ospreys and then sort of bounced around. And then I was watching I got on a rabbit. It started with the game we're going to talk about. I went on like a rabbit hole of that sort of 2010 to 2013, 14 rugby. Because I'm a big nerd for the 2013 Lions tour. And I've come to the conclusion that all rugby pre-2013 Lions tour is awful. Apart from Ospreys winning the league. Like the standard of it, and I'm like, what am I watching? And obviously you boys have watched the 2007 and 1987 World Cup. But it's just like there's 8 million people in a ruck. People can't pass the ball. So we have teams.
87, mate.
Yeah, I refused it. I like rugby, and I don't want to tarnish that. So we've alluded to this before, but we're going to talk about Ospreys versus Munster on the 11th of May 2012. So yesterday, what were you doing on the 11th of May 2012? Do you know?
Probably watching the game on the telly. I don't know.
Was the Ghost Choir there that day?
No.
Okay, the Ghost
We got
Choir
invited to, what was it? Because it was like a cluster of all primary schools and the secondary schools. So it was like 3 games we got invited to. One of them was against Cardiff. Another one was against Claremont, obviously. And then the 2016-17 season against Edinburgh, when Blair Kingon whacks out Dan Evans off the ball and Dudley Phillips still gives the try. And
Dudley Phillips.
Good rep.
Jesus.
In shoes everywhere. And then the Ospreys came back and won by a bonus point because Keelan Giles scored.
Your depth of pointless Ospreys knowledge knows no bound.
The first try score of the night was David Howells for the Ospreys, but I think Edinburgh scored first, so I can't remember that.
Okay, so boys, what were you doing on the 11th of May 2012? I assume watching this game.
I remember watching
this game
really
on the
clearly.
sofa at home.
Yeah.
And it was us two and our mum.
And our dad.
And our dad was
there
as well.
Still there.
Blimey.
It's that long ago. Yeah.
Yeah. So over the course of this podcast, as we've been recording this, I've been like recalling the teams in my head as far as I remember them. And I want to know like how well I can do, how many players I could name you from
this. So before we do that, I'm going to go through the domestic box office and singles charts.
Oh, hello. Yes.
Okay.
So we've done this before. So can you guess what was number 1 on the 11th of May in the film charts or the box office charts at the time? 11th of May 2012. It's
May
quite
2012.
an obvious one. Yeah.
May 2012. We Bought a Zoo would have been around. That was sort of.
We
Prometheus?
Bought a Zoo wasn't on there. Prometheus, I can't see on the list.
May 2012, because this is around the time. So it was around March. I started going to the cinema very regularly. 2012. Really? Yeah, I was doing my A levels at the time. I remember kind of the whole thing. So May 2012. I will have seen whatever's on this list because it'll be early on in my kind of seeing everything at the cinema when I was really focused on it. Really did it a lot.
So We Bought a Zoo was on the list. It was number 48.
48. Okay.
It made on this day $1,629. Just below it was Star Wars Episode 1: The Phantom Menace, which made
the re-release.
But yes, think you ever guess what's up top?
No, my knowledge of films is not as good as my knowledge on the Ospreys. 2017.
So,
It just
so
isn't.
at number one was the Avengers,
Oh, of course.
of course.
May 2020. Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
Yeah, we bought a zoo though. I'll name that.
yeah.
I was thinking about Belle and Me, the Robert Pattinson film. No.
Also in this list was Cabin in the Woods.
Yes, I saw the two back to back.
The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel, fantastic film.
Yeah.
The Hunger Games was on there, the first one. Dark Shadows.
Dark Shadow, the Tim Burton reboot that everyone forgot. There's a bit where he watches Scooby-Doo and says this is a very silly play. And I remember thinking that was the only good bit of the film. And it stuck with me, 13 years later.
So films are a bit thin on the ground, right? So we established that we bought a zoo and the Avengers. Do you remember what was in the music charts at this time? Will, you're the musician here.
Yeah. So I'm kind of basing this off two things. I remember in 2011, moves like Jagger was big. We covered this on the 2011 pod.
So it would be later, wouldn't it?
And so it would have been later than that. So it won't be that. And I was in year 10 in school at this point. So Adele was just blown up at this point, like to her proper like stardom. So I think she's a possibility. Like maybe Rolling in the Deep by Adele might be up there. I think. Go on.
Rolling in the Deep. I cannot see.
Skyfall was later that year.
Yeah,
Skyfall was later that
year.
Yeah.
I think Can't Hold Us by Macklemore was that year. That feels about the right time for that.
Yeah, I want to say this is on the list. It's not on the list that I can see, but it is that year.
What about that Jack Antonoff project, the Fun We Are Young? I remember that was massive at that point.
That is on there.
Yes. Okay, I'm on a roll here. I can't remember what else. Yeah, go on.
Performer of the Women's World Cup, Rita Ora is number one to this day, with R.I.P. featuring Tiny Temper, which was an awful song, and I like Tiny Temper. Young by Talisa is at number two. God, do you remember Talisa had a solo career? Peak music, Carly Rae Jepsen, Call Me Maybe.
Yes, of course. Now we're talking.
Yeah, that's been in the chart for 6 weeks everywhere. At that point. That was, I remember that in school. I was in year 8. No, I would have been in year 9.
I first heard that song on a rugby tour to Ireland. Fun fact, in Dublin.
We Are Young by Fun and Janelle Monáe.
I forgot Janelle Monáe's song.
Drive by Train.
Oh, yeah. Remember Train?
Yeah, sadly.
Yeah.
What an era.
Some other, Where Have You Been by Rihanna's in there. A bit of Welsh in there. Marina and the Diamonds, Prima Donna. She'd do a job at Outside Centre from the Scarlets, I reckon. What I will say is Jason Mraz. This is when Jason Mraz was big.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. I didn't realize it was that late.
So this is I often liken Jason Mraz to Morgan Stoddart, because he was really big around 2012, 2013, and then it all just went wrong.
Good player, though, Morgan Stoddart.
Oh, that's unfair. Really, you can't call him a good player. He was great.
Yeah, he was a good player.
But that's you can't just call everyone that.
So I'm going to put Will out of his misery. We're going to go through the teams. Right. Do you want to do the Munster team, Will?
Yeah, not all of it, but I can remember Ian Keatley played instead of Nagara. Did Keatley play 10 or fullback? I feel like he played fullback.
Keatley?
He played at 10. I watched this game a couple of nights ago.
Oh, nice.
He played at 10. Started the game at 10.
Okay, so
you've got Keatley at 10.
Ivan Deneen started on the wing. I can remember I'd never heard of him before that game, and then having heard of him after that game, which was a weird for a semi-final. Sorry,
I'm just writing the numbers out. So Ivan Deneen did indeed start on the wing. He started on the right wing.
Keith Earls played 13 and scored the first try of the game where Ashley Beck got caught ball watching, and he did a little inside run.
It was I think it was Keatley who scored off a Keith Earls break.
That's it. That's it. Yeah. Did Danny Barnes play? Because he was a good player.
I think about Danny Barnes all the time. He's
So-
one of those players just permanently in my head.
Good player.
Keith Earls, played. He was 13. He was excellent this game. Danny Barnes did not play.
Was it Lafemi Maffey at 12?
Maffey was at 12.
Okay.
He had a good game.
I can remember that Thomas O'Leary came off the bench and Jiffy started taking the mick out of him, saying, "Oh, turn the game, Thomas, turn the game, Thomas." So that makes me think that either Peter Stringer or Duncan Williams started at 9. I'm going to go Stringer.
At 9, you had neither.
Who was the other Munster squad at that point?
Conor Murray, but young Conor Murray.
Oh my God, it was Conor Murray.
It was
his
Conor
breakthrough
Murray.
season. Conor Murray, who won his first cap that year. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So Dennis Leamy would have been at 8 because it was a Munster game.
No.
No. Now, did Dave O'Callaghan play in this game?
Dave O'Callaghan came off the bench.
Okay, I'll take that. Niall Ronan, you reminded me of the other day.
Niall Ronan, good player.
He's got to be in the
Love
mix.
that guy.
So Dave
I don't think he
O'Callaghan.
was though.
Was
Because this would be.
James Coughlin? He was the Munster one, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was there. He was there.
Yeah, he must have been there.
James Coughlin. David Wallace was right at the end of his career here.
Oh yeah. David Wallace.
No, David Wallace. David Wallace, I believe, was either injured or banned.
What
I
about
want to say injured.
what about Damien Varley at hooker? Good player.
Oh yeah.
No.
Mike Sherry.
Mike Sherry did play tight prop. Yes.
Oh, yes, we're cooking now. I'm pretty much done.
Do you want to run through the rest?
Yeah, run through the team. I'm done. I'm done.
I will. Sorry, I've got the worst team sheet now. I should have the Sky one up because Sky team sheets are the best. So there was a bit going into this game. So they had no David Wallace. So a young Peter O'Mahony took over captaincy. Who played excellent. He was arguably man of the match this game.
Wow.
So teams, here we go. Right, so let's start at so Adrian Dupria, Lou said.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Who had a horrible time. Michael Sherry started who had the worst game I've ever seen. Every throw was underthrown. Or just did not hit the target. BJ Butter, who got
good player. Yeah.
Really good player. Good follow on Twitter as well.
Yeah.
But he got an absolute tune in this game. Mick O'Driscoll.
Great player.
Class. I love Mick O'Driscoll.
Was one of those players who kept coming out of retirement to play for the Barbars, which is my favourite kind of second row.
Then I believe it was Donica O'Callaghan.
Oh, yeah.
So again, he was hyped up before the game quite a bit.
Test Lion, great player.
He was a Test Lion. Oh yeah, he was a Test Lion at this point. You're right.
Yeah, he was unreal. Donica O'Callaghan. He was so
yeah.
good.
Wasn't he the one who just played in his tried to play in his underpants?
Correct.
Yeah, then Y fronts on. So yeah. Sorry, I've got that image in my head now, and he just sort of whips them off.
What a player!
Oh, I've lost the team sheet.
Sky's funniest rugby moments, loved it.
No,
Jamal Maddox loved it on that.
Do you remember the Australian? What was that guy? Sean. He used to do the rugby top tens on that Fox.
Sean Maloney.
Sean Maloney.
Yeah, Sean Maloney. Good pundit.
Yeah, great value.
Yeah, he made it onto there, and I always remember the way he pronounced Dave Lemmy. Was one of my favourites. So sorry from there. So Mick O'Driscoll, Donovan O'Callaghan, D Ryan. So Ryan at 6.
Yeah,
Donovan Ryan. Yeah,
Donovan
he was
Ryan,
really good, really underrated.
Yeah.
A young Tommy O'Donnell.
Oh wow,
Tommy
O'Donnell,
good player, certified good player.
And then a very young and skinny-faced Pom at 8. And captain, who had an absolute stormer, bless him, and was just leading this pissed up bunch of useless. I don't know what happened to Munster this day, but they were awful. Peter O'Mahony just looked fuming. He's clearly just the start of his gardening career, and he realised that his raised beds were fucked. he's playing away.
Do you think
So we go
this is
into
what happened, that this game went this badly and the spite of it fueled him for an entire career?
He never went on a Lions tour, did he?
Yeah, he did. He went in 2017.
Oh, 2017, yeah.
Played the first test.
Yeah, as captain.
He shit the bed, didn't he?
Yeah.
Bless
Wasn't
him.
great. You can't imagine him in the Remain situation, can you? He would have just chinned Kieran Reid. So it's the backs end. So young Conor Murray in his breakout season. He was okay. He was still a bit slow. That trademark sort of Conor Murray. What all nines did back then was that two-step crab in.
Yeah,
because they couldn't pass the ball. Ian Keatley started at 10 and was very good this game. Then you had Simon Zebo on one wing.
Great player.
So young Zebo, obviously fresh off. Had he won an Island Cap? No, he hadn't won an Island Cap this year, had he?
Do you know?
I think this was around the time. It was on 2012.
He was on fire at this point.
He went on the 2013 Lions.
Well, 2013 Six Nations, he did the keep up with the back of his heel.
I reckon 2012, he would have won his first cap in the summer. Then Ultimate Internationals, he ended up playing fullback, which was his first exposure professionally. He's playing fullback, as far as I can remember.
Right, good player though.
Won his first cap in the 2012 Six Nations, so he would have just been capped.
Okay, right. He probably got capped against.
Played for the Irish Wolfhounds against the England Saxons after Chode failed to recover from injury in time. Oh no, sorry. Would go on to make his debut a few weeks after this against New Zealand.
I was going to say I need to look at the Wolfhounds and Saxons teams that day because that'll be peak Wolfhounds and Saxons. Maffey at 12, Earls at 13, even Deneen at 14, the most Siberian sounding Irishman ever. And then Johnny Murphy at fullback, who was a late replacement, or Johnny Murphy at fullback, sorry, who was a late replacement.
Johnny Murphy's a good player.
Yeah. But he went off injured very early, at the 24th minute. And that's when Rog came on, who Roger's only contribution to this game was getting tackled very hard by Justin Timberlake. Which then led to one of the tries.
Hannah Dirksen.
One
of my favourite games of all time.
Mm-hmm. He did not get good ovation. Before I go on to Ospreys team, peak Scrum 5 Live, by the way. Scrum 5 Live has never been better, I think. So let me run you through who was at the game this day, right? Ross Harry in a slate-coloured suit, right, with Robert Jones looking all suave. They don't do what they do now, where they stand on the sideline. No, they went up to the studio in the Swansea.com stadium, which I'm pretty sure hasn't been used for years. You had Phil Steele mincing about, looking great. The Charlo on commentary, the best commentator, Gareth Charles. Yes. Jiffy was on his batshit crazy, just like you said, Will, just taking a piss at Thomas O'Leary. For context, obviously, a year prior, Sam Warburton had received a red card for the tip tackle. So this was all that anytime the ref made a decision, Jiffy would reference that. Peak Scrum 5 Live. It's never been better. I miss it so much.
I watched the first, the intro to it on YouTube the other day, and they're massive, epic voiceover guy they've got doing a Munster are the champions, but the Ospreys are standing in their way. They don't do anything like that nowadays. There's none of that production value.
No, we get Ross Harris walking out the tunnel where some players are awkwardly trying to get past him to go and train for the game. It would be like Aki Sayuli trying to get past it, and it's like, mate, I need to go do scrummaging training before the game. So the Ospreys team, this was obviously, for context, the Ospreys had started this season quite badly, which led to the firing of Sean Holley. Thank the Lord. And then
so Hey, the Ospreys' loss is Punditry's loss also.
It's Punditry's double loss. Although he did have that weird section on Scrum 5, didn't he, for years? Because they used to have the random rugby player behind the bar, and then it would lead into Sean Holly's analysis. And it'd be like Lee Jarvis behind the bar or someone like that.
What about that? The star at the bar.
The star at the bar.
Jason
yeah.
Mohammed would introduce.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I love Scrum 5, man. Steve Tandy took over, and the Ospreys just sort of became unstoppable, really. They'd won like sort of 5 out of the 6. They'd had a good showing. They didn't play Heineken Cup this year. Am I right in saying? Was it next year they played the Heineken Cup? Because obviously they won the league. I can't remember if we played Heineken Cup this year.
This year. It was a big, again, break for game from fouls right before his first cap for England. He comes to Liberty, he won. I mean, putting a really good grubber kick to put the Ospreys under lots of pressure. And then, yeah, there's a lot of talk like this kid's definitely be playing for England in the next few weeks. And yeah, won his first cap against Scotland a few weeks later.
Because the year after, you had the Eli Walker versus Toulouse. Because there's obviously Shane retired this year, and Eli Walker came onto the scene the year after. So the Ospreys team this day was Paul James, who was playing his last home game for the Ospreys at this day because he was joining Bath. Obviously came back then, and I think he holds the record for most minutes in a season for the Ospreys, I'm pretty sure. But when he came back, so when he was like 37 or whatever, Richard Hibbard at 2. Now, how old do you think Richard Hibbard was in this game?
27.
He was 28.
Oh,
I thought I forget how old Richard Hibbard actually is. Like, dude is old. Because he only stopped playing like 2 years ago.
yeah. He played till he was like 38, didn't he?
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah. Played. Strong.
Yeah. Trundled around for the Dragons. In the
Scored
Rainbow
hat
Cup.
tricks.
Yeah. Bomb, tired, who just signed a new deal at this point because they did a weird vignette with him at half time. Because obviously there's no ad breaks on BBC, they had to fill it with something. So they just did this weird vox pop with Adam Jones.
One of the greats.
Some young whippersnapper called Alan Wynne. At 4, who was captain, obviously.
Extraordinary. We were 12 years into his Test career at this point, yet we weren't close to halfway.
Yeah,
like we weren't a third of the way. Yeah.
Right, here's a question for you 3. When is peak Alan Wynne Jones?
Yeston, do you have a...
I want to say 2019 Six Nations.
Yeah,
100% agreed.
I'm going to put that out there because he was excellent, and especially the Island game as well. I know he kind of ruined his Osprey season because of it, but that Island game, he was excellent.
100% agree. I remember at that point, that was where I said, like, constantly, I was saying, like, I think this is the best rugby player ever. Was my opinion at the time. It's not necessarily my opinion now, but he's one of the greats.
I think, I think there was another peak around 2013, 2012, 13.
I was going to say 2013 Lions tour or leading up to it.
Yeah. Him and O'Connell's the best second row combo I've ever seen. Like,
well, the whole narrative leading up to it was O'Connell got injured for that Lions tour. So they were like, oh my God, there's a leadership void. That isn't Sam Warburton, because obviously Warburton was getting injured as well. So Alan Wynne's here.
Yeah, I remember the real pride I felt seeing Alan Wynne Jones named captain for the tour, because like, he's our guy, he's an Ospreys guy, and he's Lions captain.
What with John Spencer? Then bigger Ospreys, Wales. I'll never forget that day. This Sky Sports are in the pavilion in Llandars watching Dan Bigger get called up to the Lions. Ian Evans at 5, peak Ian Evans.
Great.
one of the best second rows.
Yeah,
Ryan Jones at 6, who had a stormer of a game.
I remember
He
that.
was so good. But he was so he was like the most illegal player to ever exist this game. He was awesome. Justin Tipuric at 7.
Again, one of
obviously.
the greats.
One of the greats. One of his best games. Well, the thing is, with someone at Tipuric, I had this discussion with Hugh Griffith the other day of Pirate Rugby. He said, is Justin Tipuric a player who has never been slated in his career?
Oh,
That's a good question.
yeah. I can't.
He's close to, at least.
I can't think of a time where someone said, we should drop Tipuric, or Tipuric's playing badly, he shouldn't be in the team.
Because he is sort of everything, isn't he? There was
Yeah.
maybe a period where people said, oh, he's just a show pony. But it wasn't really true, and people worked that out pretty quickly.
Maybe that's 6 months after they banned the thing where the jackal has to go back
Yeah.
around the gate. But then he figured it out after 6 months and he was fine.
This is what I was going to say. For years, I was told that Tipuric wasn't a jackler. And then you watch games from this period, and he is like a clamp.
Yeah.
Like, he just... The only reason he stopped doing the turnovers is because there were other people to do the turnovers.
And they outlawed his favourite way of getting turnovers by just the tackler never being offside because they changed that rule.
So, yeah, I think... Yes, Neil, what do you think? Has Justin Tipuric ever been slated or be called to be dropped? I don't think he has.
I can't think of anything. I'm just trying to scratch through it now. I don't think there is.
Even at Lions level, he wasn't really.
Yeah, because that ridiculous stat of he's never missed a tackle in a Lions shirt. And obviously, he went off injured in the 21 tour against Japan, didn't he? And I spent like the next day saying, "Does anyone know if he still got this stat? Because I don't know if he got injured or not, and he missed a tackle."
He still hasn't, I'm pretty sure. Well, I still maintain that there's a legitimate point that he would have been a starter on the 21. I know it was a cursed tour, but he would have started that 21 Lions tour because he was just really unlucky at the time of the Lions tours, of the sevens around him.
But
So
even like when Tipuric came back, there wasn't really any doubt that people are saying, if someone goes out with a shoulder injury, thinking, oh, he might not be back to his best for a little bit. Tipuric just comes back, and just does his job like he never went away. He was like ridiculous.
No one was ever saying, let's start Will Jones over Justin Tipuric in Ospreys shit.
There was the brief period last year during the Six Nations where Tipuric has been absolutely unbelievable for the Ospreys. Been playing some genuinely his best rugby of his career. The Montpellier game, Leicester, around that period. He'd been phenomenal every single week. And then for Wales, he was just okay. And I think maybe that was the closest we've come, was him being like 6 out of 10 when he'd been at 10 out of 10 repeatedly.
That is true. And then he immediately called time his Wales career saying he didn't enjoy it. So that's the only time.
Went back to the Ospreys and was great again.
Yeah, exactly. Was exclusively for Wales.
So I'm not saying he's a perfect player, but there's never been a point where you're like, let's start someone else over him.
Okay, I am saying he's the perfect player. I hope that sentence is going to end, is Tom Haberfield.
I was going to say it's Joe Bierman.
Well, he's next. He's my next pick.
Exactly.
Because the freak is... I love the Joe Bierman. Right? So this is when I wasn't like up to date on like being a rugby nose or whatever. And we just I always thought Joe Bierman was Welsh, right? Because I hadn't heard him speak because he never did media. And then you sort of... I was reminded when I was watching Matt Dwyer's the other day, the best show on YouTube, and he's interviewing Matt Dwyer. He's interviewing Joe Bierman in the stadium. Like, he's got the thick Cornish accent.
Yeah.
And he was like 32 playing for the Ospreys at this point. He was something ridiculous like that. He'd already played 100 odd times for the Dragons. He'd already played 100 odd times for Cornish Pirates. And he was just a freak. Like, never took a backward step. Never, he was always in good nick. Like, handsome player. Oh, he was just so good.
I always thought he was great for the Ospreys, but I always think of him as a Dragons great.
Me too.
Because that period where the Dragons weren't very good. They're better than they are now. I bet they have been since, but didn't know what we were missing. But Joe Beerman was their best player and was phenomenal every week. And we'll do this like behind the back, like he was like a pound shop Sergio Parise. He was great.
The Cornish
Sergio Parise.
Is now a teacher in Cardiff somewhere, I believe.
Yeah. God, imagine getting a set of detention by him. You would always turn up.
Apparently still in great nick, still in similar shape.
Oh, good for him.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's still playing like amateur rugby, like Div 5 Central.
I wouldn't surprise
East.
me.
I think he was. So Grav of Rock and Roll knew him a bit post-retirement and said he was great. And yeah, it was telling me all sorts of Joe Beerman stories, some of which I can't repeat on air. Yeah, I met him in Cardiff after one of the Autumn Internationals and had a few drinks. And he was telling me a bunch of Joe Beerman stories, and yeah, beer was involved in some of them.
Nice. Beerman by name, Beerman by nature.
So we move into the backs, and then peak Ospreys backs. Khan Fatualii was given the nod at 9.
Yeah. Controversially.
It was controversially.
Yeah. There's a lot of chat about this pre-match, isn't there?
There was, yeah. Because
Reece
Reece Webb was obviously the young whippersnapper. Was not a starter for Wales at this point.
No, sort of this autumn, I think he took the shirt.
I think it was this autumn he took the shirt over. I tell you, it was him and Dan Biggar that autumn, the autumn of 2012. They had an amazing autumn, and I remember the chat. There was some like outside rumors of him going on the Lions tour because there were so many good 9s at the time, and you're like, no, actually, we've got so many good 9s. He's not going. So one of my favorite Ospreys players ever was Khan Fatualii.
Yeah, same here. Growing up as a 9, he was like one of my favorite players. He was kind of one of the players who taught me. Him and Ruan Pino were kind of the two players.
Yeah.
In the 9, like Fatualii's form for the Ospreys the next year was unbelievable. After this,
so yeah, Fatualii was given the nod at 9, and then Dan Biggar was at 10.
Yes.
Who this is? You could say this is peak Biggar.
I think this is one of maybe 3 peaks. I was thinking the same thing.
Because he was just unplayable.
Mm.
He had a running. Everyone's like, "Oh, Dan Biggar is not expansive." So his running game at this time was ridiculous. His step. He scored off a Ryan Jones offload. Yeah.
Mm.
But that's the tries he scored. He scored so many of them tries in this period of just putting someone in a hole, and then Sean Holly brings it up actually in the analysis, and he's coached then to run that line. Like it's almost like a 9, a bit like George Horn runs now. He gives the ball and will just run ahead of the play, anticipating the line break and the offload. And he was just ridiculous. On his 54th retirement match, Shane Williams.
Yeah, his last actual game at home for the Ospreys.
At home, yeah. Before he made a career of hating hookers.
Well, hey, many people have done it. Most of them are Republican politicians, but many people have made careers like
Shane Williams. Well, Shane Williams is obsessed with oil, so I'm not saying he's a Republican politician. So he didn't do much this game.
No.
He didn't do anything
because he scored that try.
He had that one like line break where he scored off, but it's like his foot was in touch.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember that.
And Nigel Owens had his flag up like straight away. I was like, that's.
But couldn't keep up with the play.
Yeah.
Peak Nigel Owens fashion. So he didn't really do much. He was saving it all for the final. Come on, man. Yeah. Another part of the commentary was. So the two weird things was they were weirdly showing on S4C the Glasgow versus Leinster game, which was the other semi-final, and they just kept blatantly going. I hope Glasgow win. I hope Glasgow win because they didn't want the Ospreys to go out to Leinster because if Glasgow won, it meant the final would have been at the Liberty. But alas, it was at the RDS, and we all know what happened next. So centres then, Ashley Beck and Andrew Bishop.
Oh, Beck on ridiculous form as well.
Bish was great class act as well.
I don't think I've ever seen Andrew Bishop miss a tackle.
Yeah.
It was this season or the season before he knocked out Andy Fenby with his elbow. This is why I brought up Andy Fenby early, because he got knocked out by Andrew Bishop, like off a normal carry. Like, it wasn't even anything. He just got knocked out.
There's a story in I think it's Adam Jones' autobiography of Andrew Bishop is the only person he's ever seen square up to Alan Wynne Jones and come away with it.
I've got a story off air for you relating to that. Very much off air. So other wing then was our adopted South African son, Hanno Dirksen.
Yes. Again, had a ridiculous burst of form in the second half of the season.
Yeah, well, Tommy Bowe and Nicky Walker were injured.
Nicky Walker was gone.
He won try of the season this year. The week before, actually, for his solo effort up in Edinburgh.
Yeah, I remember this.
Yeah,
he puts. It's not a chip. It's basically an up and under, and somehow catches it and goes under. Richard Fussell, a fullbacker who we've discussed already,
the greatest.
He was amazing this game as well. He carved Munster up like you wouldn't believe.
Should have played 100 times for Wales. And if I have it my way, he will. Yes.
Who was fullback for? Oh, it was Lee Halfpenny. Yeah, fair enough.
Oh, boring.
Never.
He'll never come to anything.
On the bench, since you had
If full penny was worth anything. Sorry.
Tom Isaacs was on the bench. Some highlights. Great on Rugby Challenge. The video game had Tom Smith was never used. Scott Baldwin, Ryan Bennett, and Aaron Jarvis.
10 up. You're not bringing all your subs on. That's mad.
Yeah, sorry, Munster didn't bring on Paddy Butler either.
Oh, I remember Paddy Butler.
Paddy Butler was a good player. Reece Webb obviously came on, scored a try in the 75th minute. Just sort of, the game was killed off.
A daft celebration.
Yeah. Matthew Morgan got on this game as well, I'm pretty sure. He did come on. So, 45-10. Probably, I thought my life peaked at this point, but then the final happened.
Yeah. This was a real highlight. This was one of the great Ospreys nights. And you could tell it at the time.
Yeah. And that feeling has never been done. When Hanno Dirksen went into that try, I was like, what has just happened? Like, also, I'm going to put out there, Hanno Dirksen's like long pencil try-scoring motion is better than the Ash Splash.
Oh, hello.
I remember Dirksen doing the same thing against Munster, like in 2017 as well.
Is it the playoff one?
No, it's the one in the league where Marius Matreya happens and we lose by like a point or two. It was basically an Osprey self-implosion around 30 minutes where they just let in a couple of tries and then Munster. Well, Tyler Blaindell kicked the winner, which is
Tyler Blaine,
really good player.
He was so good,
but really annoyed me that night.
Yeah.
Do you remember how I said Stuart Barnes used to be obsessed with Sam Davis? Left boot?
Yeah.
Tyler Blaindell was the other one.
Yeah, it was like they were like long lost cousins because they both had a scrum cap and both could kick.
And are absurdly skinny at 10. So that was Ospreys Munster in 2012. Should we talk about Ospreys Munster in 2024?
We probably should.
One of them players is still playing.
Yeah.
And he'll be starting as captain, I'd imagine.
Well, one on either side, but one will be absent this weekend in Omani and Tipuric. Both
Murray would be there as well.
Of course, yeah.
But they're on the piss.
And so they should be.
He's in the garden centre somewhere.
And if they want to take their entire teammates out with them the day of this game, so they turn up pretty much still bladdered, I would be okay with that. So
Munster are bringing somewhat of a reduced squad over. John Hodnett, who you can't convince me is not a 45-year-old bricklayer from Cork, is back. Jack O'Donoghue and Simon Zebo all return to training. Zebo's there as well. Ollie Jaeger and Finn Wycherley are both out, so that's good news on the Ollie Jaeger front because that Munster pack is ferocious. Alex Nenkevel is following return to play protocol, so it's touch and go whether he'll be there. Craig Casey and Jeremy Lockman are back from the Six Nations, so they've been told no beer for you. You're coming to Swansea. Unlucky lads.
So Munster have a bit of an injury crisis in the back three. They had one pre-Six Nations. Getting Zebo back is pretty big for them. But obviously with Calvin Nash now missing, being rested after playing every game for Ireland over the Six Nations.
And definitely being concussed as well.
Oh, yeah, God, yeah.
100%.
But it's left them in a situation where they've been having to play academy lads over the 2 games in the Six Nations window. And they've gone pretty well on the whole, but they do have a pretty untested back three. We're probably going to see that, or we could see Zebo parachuted right back as he returns to fitness at fullback or, on the wing. So, yeah, that's a kind of interesting area for Munster, but they can still put out a bloody good team, even missing the players they're still with Ireland.
Well, they've still got the likes of Gavin Coombs. He'll be in there. Casey back. Who's going to play 10?
Tony Butler, most likely. He's been playing the last few weeks.
Tony Butler is an electrician from Donegal, not a 10 for Munster.
Tony Butler played in the front row for Ireland in the 80s, and I won't hear otherwise. And yet there's a young fly half called Tony Butler, which makes no sense to my brain. But with Crowley missing and Parker,
he's not called Antoine Butler or Butler. He's actually a French qualified. So they can still put out a very, very good team.
They've got kind of a really strong 15 they can still put out, and maybe they don't have the depth they normally have. But then, as Toby Booth said in the press conference, that's the benefit of having a 60-man squad, as the Irish teams do, is even with the number of injuries they have, if the Ospreys were in this situation, they would be basically feeling the Cheetahs 15, where Munster in the situation can still put out a strong team. And you're looking at kind of, Jeremy Lockman obviously coming back, but you've got John Ryan, you've got, a Hearn and Snyman you're probably looking at in the second row.
Oh, shit, yeah, I forgot
Both
about them.
Brilliant players. Gavin
John
Coombs
Klein, is he out?
endless tries. John Klein is injured. Yeah, John Klein's missing. But Craig Casey will probably come straight back in at 9. He did both games in the Six Nations when he was released. Daly, Mike Haley at fullback. Like, there's so many good players. Scannell and Frisch in the centre, both fit. It's a really, really strong team. There's probably one player on the bench who is perhaps lesser known. There might be a bit of a struggle for them to feel someone out. But they're not in the situation we've been in.
It gives me the vibe of, and Yeston will attest to this because he was at the game with me, was when the last time Munster came to the Liberty or the .com, Damien Diolende was back for them. And it was like this big boost, and like Munster were, and he literally, because it was in front of me, got his pants pulled down by Kieran Williams. So there is, and they've had a long rest. Their mentality is probably a bit elsewhere. They've just sold at this All Black 15 game. They've got, let's be fair, they're having a bit of, in terms of a champion team, they're doing that classic champion thing of we're now 9th. And it's a crisis season because last year we won the league. Type thing, stuff like that. So I expect it to be a very tough test. Knowing the team, we're not going to obviously give anything away. We can still give our predictions.
Here's the thing, right? The team will be named at like 11 a.m., right? This podcast is going out tomorrow morning. By the time someone gets 2 hours into this podcast, they've probably seen the team.
Owen Williams is playing 10.
So
that could have been predicted anyway.
Yeah, so Owen Williams played 10 in that training game against Bristol from the photos and videos we saw of that. So, look, from the anonymous sources, but if you're looking at Owen Williams at 10, adds a bit of experience. I quite like that as a call. Whereas Dan Edwards played very well the last few weeks, but I quite like having a more settled fly half at this particular game.
But what we talked about, and it's a Boothyism, a Boothie bingo, is that managing your loads, time in the saddle,
Time in the saddle.
right? Picking and choosing when a
He
player.
said time in the saddle
I-
to Toby Booth's
I
face.
got to say time in the saddle to Toby, and it was one of the best
He
moments.
said
of my
bits
life.
and he said bits and pieces twice. Beefy
But,
did.
but
Anyway.
it's absolutely right. Like there are games in which you expose people to, and Munster at home when we're chasing playoffs is not the time for Dan Edwards to cut teeth.
Yeah.
Like we had it at the Christmas derbies, right? I remember Dan Edwards didn't get on for the second Scarlets game, and everyone's like, "Oh, why would you not bring Dan Edwards on?" Was it why would you? It's a tight game, you know. We're still chasing whatever here.
Yeah.
You know, there are times in which like Dan Edwards is good, but he's not. You know, Owen Williams is an underrated defender.
Yeah.
So it maybe cuts off what Antoine Frisch could do or Niall Scannell could do because you take away that weaker 10 channel. Everyone says this about George Ford, right? Everyone says George Ford is a weak defender. He's not. His channel just gets targeted the most.
Yeah.
We expect to see Ruben in there for that box kick in. I also think that Luke, as much as we like Luke as a person and as a player, he had a poor game out in Edinburgh.
It was
by his standards.
Yeah.
Like he exuded a lack of control in that team, I think.
I thought the first half he was, and the second half he picked up an awful lot.
Yeah. But I think Ruben just gives you that flat line of being good for that whole 70 minutes whenever he's on. I expect to see Morgan Morris starting, Rhys Davis starting. I think where this game is potentially a bit spicy is that bench. Is the fact that we're at a point in our injury list now where we can bring on some sexy players, basically.
Rhys Henry, most notably.
Well, that's physically sexy. Like that's actually. I mean, you were stood near him today.
Yeah. Oh,
like
got sweats just thinking about it.
Yeah. I bet he was throwing missed threes. He was calling backs moves. You know, just doing the sexy things.
Just realised, sorry, Hugh Sutton's playing 10. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Hugh Sutton is playing 10. But you can call on a Sutton to come on to add that carrying bit of dynamism. You can look at maybe a Jandre Rudolph coming off the bench if he doesn't start. You know, he went very well in Edinburgh. So I think that dynamism is there. And maybe Munster are going to lack that. I think Munster and Rowntree are going to keep that squad, that 15, for as long as possible. Basically what Sean Everett does.
Yeah.
In that Sean Everett doesn't make substitutions. That's why Bowen Venter plays 74 minutes a game. That's the reason the scrum went to toss at Edinburgh, was not because Lewis Lloyd came on. It's because Bowen Venter was still on, because they didn't have trust in the loose head. Everyone says, oh, Javan Sebastian came on and won that game. He didn't. It was Bowen Venter stayed on because all the pens were won on Bowen Venter's side. So I think we'll see a lot of kicking. And I think we'll see a lot of playing for penalties. Yeah. So I think we'll see keeping it tight, playing in that 9 channel a lot. And then once we have that advantage, that's where you release your Giles and your Hopkins or your Nagy's. Yeston, who are you expecting to see? Who do you want to have a big performance, essentially? Who needs a big performance, do you think, in the Ospreys shirt?
I don't think there's really anyone that really stands out and think, they really need a big performance. Because obviously you've got players like Morgan Morris, Rhys Davis, all coming back into the fold, and you got someone like Max Nagy who's only just come back into training. It's probably a big chance for Owen Williams, if named, is a chance for him to maybe put down a marker for the Sale game. Because it could easily be the next couple of weeks where we have someone like, Owen Williams, Jack Walsh, Dan Edwards. That might be like a three-way battle to see who started 10 against George Ford in Bridgend. And it's probably one of those where you're thinking, one of them needs to step up and maybe in a way, kind of like take that number one shirt because all three of them have kind of played a bit this year. So, whichever one gets to start at 10, if they can really set that standard and, say that's the level where you have to be if you want to start against Hill.
Yeah, no, I agree. Boys, who are you tipping for a big game?
You go first.
Yeah. I mean, this feels. There's been this running thing, right, through especially the home games for the Ospreys this year. When they've won them, it's been one of the young players has stepped up and done it. This kind of young core. So Perpignan, you had Jason Hopkins stepped up and was phenomenal. Scored 2 tries, got man of the match. Dan Edwards against Ulster. You had Morgan Morse against Cardiff. You've kind of had James Fender against the Scarlets. You've had this running theme of young players coming and just putting in the performance and showing us what they can do. That Max Nagy against Zebre at the start of the season as well. And these players kind of bursting through and really saying this is a theme for the season. I think what we're forgetting is the thing Toby Booth keeps saying. This is the second lot that's coming through, right, at the minute. And this feels made for Morgan Morris to remind us what a player he is. Because he was great when he came on for 20 minutes. But in all the hype around Morgan Morse, quite rightly, we've got caught up in that. And I think a lot of us have forgotten just how bloody good Morgan Morris is. We haven't forgotten, but we haven't been talking about it as much. And this feels like the game to me for him to re-emerge and be like, hi, I heard Wales were lacking carriers.
I completely agree. Morgan Morris was going to be the first name I said. But actually, I'm going to also go the complete opposite of what you're saying. I think Owen Watkins got a massive game in him because he had that game against France for Wales and he's made it clear that he's really keen to play.
If he's playing.
Oh, sorry. He might not be playing.
No, he wasn't in the team.
Yeah, I'm joking about the whole thing that we can't spoil anything.
No, but he wasn't in the team.
Yeah, I know. So,
so Owen Watkins might have the ghost of Owen Watkins.
Yeah, if he plays.
But if he does, right, there's some stats that went out, right, and about 12s in Wales, right. Owen Watkins and Kieran Williams are statistically up there in terms of 12s, right. They both get over the game line every time. They both take 2 defenders every time, whatever, right. So I think whatever 12 you take is going to be fun.
Yeah.
So
yeah, let's take Kieran Williams. That's my new answer.
Yeah, he's great.
He's the best.
He's going to have, I reckon, a massive game, massive kicking game, real game, organisation. Not going to do any running back towards where the ball came from and randomly bowling back people 3 times his size. Really sensible game for Kieran Williams incoming.
But yeah, this is, I think, something both said, both in the press conference and then again to us, of how big these next 3 games are. I think these next 3 games are potentially season defining. You've got C games being Munster and Lions. URC Super that they have projects the Ospreys need 49 points to make the playoffs. When you take other results into account and so on. So they're currently sat on 30. So they need to pick up 19 points somewhere over the course of the next few games. So they can pick up 4 points here and 4 points against the Lions, potentially even 5 points over that, potentially 9 points over that. That can put you almost halfway to the total we need over the rest of the season. And then, picking up the odd point on the road in those 3 really tough away games in South Africa and Leinster, potentially means, you can then target those last 2 games against the Dragons and Cardiff to try and secure it. But this is huge from a kind of making the playoffs, being the first Welsh team in the URC era to make the playoffs, making the playoffs for the first time in the Ospreys, for the Ospreys for 8 years, could be really, really big.
For me, I'm going to go with Rhys Davis having that big game. Still is in the top 5 for turnovers in the URC. I think when people are saying Wales lack physicality in the front 5, me and Dave Rogers, the commentator, have always just gone, Rhys Davis is here. Like, he's the angriest man on the planet. Yeah, so I think Reece Davis. And just because I really like him and Robbie keeps bumping into him, Sam Parry as well.
Yeah. Add more tries to tally, make Shane furious, and start sweating over his try record.
Yeah. I watched highlights of a Connacht game the other day, and Sam Parry literally puts, I think it might be like Caelan Blade or something like that. It might be Kieran Marmin into orbit. Like it's not one of them bumps off like where they just go straight to the ground, but he went like vertical and then came back down. So he's all right in my book. Right, gents, I think we're going to end it there. Technical difficulties aside, we've been rambling on. Will, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Enjoy the delights of Swansea tomorrow. And I'm sure I will be. Are you visiting anywhere tomorrow, or are you just editing? What are you doing?
We've got to get through this Super Saturday video, which is always fun. Cram that in tomorrow so we can look at the game, visit the game on Friday, and then Wales Women on Saturday.
So the place I messaged earlier, do a very good deal for coffee and very good Wi-Fi. So visit there. But enjoy your time in Swansea, boys. Enjoy the game on Friday. We are on 7:30 on Friday on the BBC. We are clashing with Cardiff, but unless you're really, really proud, you can watch the Ospreys instead. Good luck to Wales Women on Saturday. We especially the Ospreys region girls, Kira Bevan, what a woman, and Gwen Crabb, my favourite player. Yeah,
just adding to it, the second built differently.
Caris Phillips,
Tally John,
technically, yeah. Yes, then who else do you think of?
I can't think when. Obviously, Shauna Harris used to work as a teacher in the Ospreys region.
She did. Yeah. I'm going to count Cecilia Tuipulotu just because I'm scared of her. And if she ever said whether she could say whatever.
You can't not wish her good luck, can you?
She could say Celtic Warriors, and I'd be like, yeah, they're a fully functioning team, Cecilia. I would not question it. You can find us on all the regular social media channels, and you can get us on any good platform service. You could check Will out. Is it Will Owen 9?
That sounds right.
Will Owen 9. Check out the.
There is an underscore, but yeah.
Well, Will underscore Owen 9 or underscore Owen 9. I'm gonna. There's underscore in. Just type in Will Owen 9.
Yeah, you'll find me.
You're still making your way through the 2007 World Cup, boys.
Yeah, we've got about 5 games left. We're meaning to record one this week, but we've just got so much on. So next week we'll be looking at South Africa against Fiji from the quarterfinal. We'll get there. So you can still check that out on all the good podcast platforms as well as the YouTube channel as well. Other than that, boys, we'll be back next week to look at the fallout from this game and look ahead to the Lions at home. Adios, everyone. Have a good one.